Welcome, everyone, to the Moringa effect.
Yeah.
We've got some really compelling articles here exploring Moringa oleifera. It's often called the miracle tree.
That's right.
And we're looking into its potential connections to, well, things that matter to all of us. Mental well-being, finding that positivity we often get from nature, and just overall health.
Absolutely. And you've pulled together a fascinating mix. We have a scientific study from the Journal of Ayurveda and Integrative Medicine that actually looks into Moringa's antidepressant activity. Then there are articles from Simple Life Nutrition and Inside Moringa focusing more on anxiety, depression, mood, and another piece from Alternative Care. Now that even touches on sleep.
Exactly. So our mission today, really, is to dive deep into these sources for you. We want to pull out the most valuable insights on how Moringa might fit into supporting mental health.
Helping tap into that natural positivity.
Yeah, and contributing to wellness, but, without getting totally bogged down in jargon or overwhelming detail. So where should we start? Maybe with the history. That Journal of Ayurveda article really highlighted how long Moringa's been on the radar.
It did. And what's really fascinating is its traditional use in Ayurveda, the ancient Indian system of medicine. They used it for, nervous system disorders and even as a memory enhancer. That long history, centuries long, it kind of suggests there might be something to this connection with mental well-being. It's not just a new fad.
That really makes you think, doesn't it? And it's not just traditional use. The study you shared actually took a modern scientific approach looking at antidepressant effects. In mice, I believe.
That's correct. They investigated moringa leaf extract in mice, both on its own and also, interestingly, in combination with fluoxetine.
Which many people know is a common antidepressant, Prozac.
Exactly. And the key findings from this animal study, they were actually quite noteworthy.
What stood out?
Well, what really jumped out was that giving the mice moringa extract over time, specifically at a dose of 200 milligrams per kilogram, it significantly cut down the time they spent immobile in these tests designed to model depression.
Like the forced swim test.
Yeah, the forced swim test and the tail suspension test. So it strongly suggests an antidepressant-like effect, at least in these specific animal models.
Okay, but then they took it a step further, didn't they? They looked at combining it with fluoxetine.
They did. And this is where it gets quite interesting. They found that the combination of that same moringa dose, 200 milligrams per kilogram, with a low dose of fluoxetine, just 10 milligrams per kilogram.
Right.
It produced an even more pronounced effect, a bigger reduction in that immobility time.
Wow. So it hints at maybe an additive benefit, like they work together somehow.
Yep, exactly. It hints at a potential additive, maybe even synergistic benefit, at least in this model. It definitely raises the possibility that moringa could, perhaps, enhance the effects of a conventional medication.
So, okay, how? Do the researchers have any ideas about the mechanism? How might it be working?
They proposed that moringa's effect might involve the noradrenergic serotonergic neurotransmission pathway.
Okay, break that down a bit.
Right. So think of it like the brain's communication network using chemical messengers, specifically norepinephrine and serotonin, which are really key for regulating mood. And what's fascinating is that this is a similar pathway to how SSRI drugs, like that fluoxetine we mentioned, are generally thought to work.
Oh, interesting.
So a key insight here is that moringa might be tapping into some of the very same brain chemical systems as conventional antidepressants. Kind of a natural pathway to potentially achieve similar effects.
That's pretty significant. And it wasn't only about neurotransmitters, was it? I think this study mentioned other properties too.
Oh, absolutely, yes. They also highlighted moringa's antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. And this is really important because, there's this growing understanding now about the role oxidative stress and inflammation can play in mood disorders, like depression.
Right, that connection seems to be getting stronger in research.
It really is. So these properties of moringa, fighting oxidation, reducing inflammation, could be another whole angle on how it contributes to potential mental health benefits, basically helping protect brain cells and calm things down.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, let's maybe shift focus a bit to those other articles, Simple Life Nutrition and Inside Moringa. They seem to really zero in on anxiety specifically.
They did. And what's noteworthy there is they both talk about preliminary studies, again in rats, showing moringa seems to have anxiolytic effects.
Anxiolytic meaning? Anti-anxiety.
Exactly, anxiety reducing. And they suggest this might happen because moringa could influence levels of key neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and also GABA, all of which are known to be involved in regulating anxiety.
And didn't one of them mention dopamine specifically? Inside Moringa, maybe? Something about low levels.
Yes, that's right. Inside Moringa pointed out that low dopamine levels have been correlated with anxiety. It's an interesting detail to consider in this context. And both these sources also really emphasize something else vital. Moringa's nutritional profile is just packed with stuff.
Like what?
Well, vitamin C, E, the B complex vitamins, essential minerals like magnesium and zinc, and even amino acids. All of these are just fundamental building blocks for good brain health and for making those neurotransmitters we keep talking about.
So it sounds like it's probably not just one single magic bullet compound in Moringa, but more like a whole team of nutrients working together.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. And the Inside Moringa article really hammers home the antioxidant power of moringa too.
Some things like vitamin C and E.
Exactly. Vitamin C, vitamin E, plus other things called phenolic compounds, chlorogenic acid. These all help fight inflammation. And we know inflammation is increasingly seen as a big factor in chronic stress and anxiety.
You know, a clear pattern seems to be emerging here across these different sources. It keeps coming back to this link between moringa's nutrition and its potential positive impact on mood and brain function.
It really does. Inside Moringa in particular underscores this growing scientific recognition of just how deeply nutrition impacts our mental state. They describe moringa's nutrients as basically supporting the central nervous system. And they even suggest it might act in ways, well, maybe somewhat similar to SSRIs by helping boost mood and reduce anxiety, but through these nutritional pathways.
And the amino acids you mentioned. They seem pretty crucial in that picture.
Absolutely vital, because amino acids are literally the building blocks your body uses to make neurotransmitters. So having a good supply, like you might get from moringa, is critical for brain health and could potentially help ease symptoms of anxiety and depression too.
Okay. Now let's turn to that last piece from alternative care now. That one looked at a slightly different angle. Sleep, moringa, and sleep quality.
Yeah, and what's intriguing there is, moringa often gets talked about as an energy booster.
Right, that seems almost contradictory.
It does a bit, doesn't it? But this article explores its potential to actually promote relaxation and help improve sleep.
So how does that work? How can something known for energy also help you relax?
Well, the article suggests a couple things. First, it seems moringa contains certain compounds that might have a calming effect on the nervous system. And second, back to those antioxidants we discussed.
Okay.
By reducing oxidative stress, which is often linked to sleep disturbances, moringa might indirectly help create better conditions for sleep. Less biological stress, potentially better rest.
Interesting. Are there specific nutrients in moringa that they pointed to for sleep benefits?
Yes, they mentioned magnesium, for starters, which is pretty well known for helping with relaxation and calming muscles. Vitamin B6, which is crucial for making serotonin, and serotonin is needed to make melatonin, the main sleep hormone.
Right, melatonin.
And also calcium, apparently, which plays a role in how the brain uses tryptophan, another amino acid, to produce that melatonin. So, yeah, it seems like it could support sleep through a few different nutritional angles.
Okay, so putting this all together, someone listening might be thinking, all right, this sounds pretty promising. How do I actually use moringa? What are the practical ways?
That's a great question. And the sources do offer several options. The powder form seems really versatile. Easy to mix into smoothies, stir into tea, sprinkle on food.
Yeah, I've seen that around.
Capsules are another straightforward choice, obviously. You can also brew tea directly from the dried leaves. And if you're lucky enough to have access to fresh leaves, you can use those in cooking too, like spinach.
And if someone's just starting out, any advice on dosage?
Yeah, the general advice seems to be consistent. Start low, see how your body responds. You can always gradually increase it if needed.
Makes sense.
Oh, and it was also mentioned that some people like to combine it with other relaxing herbs, maybe chamomile or valerian root, especially if they're aiming for those calming or sleep-supporting effects.
Okay. Now, before we get everyone rushing out to buy moringa, we absolutely need to cover the important considerations, the caveats that the sources brought up.
Crucial point, yes. While all this research and traditional use is definitely encouraging, all the sources stress that we really need more human studies, rigorous ones, to properly confirm if moringa works for anxiety and depression in people.
So the animal studies are a good start, but not the final word.
Exactly. They point us in a direction, but human trials are what's really needed.
And what about people already on medication? This is super important.
Extremely important. Anyone currently being treated for anxiety or depression should absolutely not stop or change their prescribed medication just to try Moringa. Not without talking extensively with their doctor first.
Right. It's maybe a complementary thing, not a replacement.
Precisely. It should be viewed as a potential addition to a wellness plan, and any big changes need that medical guidance. Always.
Okay. Any potential downsides, side effects people should know about?
Generally, Moringa is considered pretty safe for most people in moderate amounts, but some potential side effects can include mild digestive things, maybe an upset stomach or diarrhea, especially if you take a lot. And also, it's important to know it might interact with certain medications, particularly drugs that affect blood sugar or blood pressure.
Good to know.
So the bottom line, repeated in the sources, is always talk to your healthcare provider before you start taking Moringa, especially if you have any existing health conditions or you're on other meds. Just be smart about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Really vital points to keep front of mind. Okay, let's just pause here for a sec. Reflecting on all this, what are your initial takeaways? Any questions popping up or even personal experiences with Moringa for our listeners? We genuinely love to hear from you. Please drop a comment below and share your thoughts.
Yeah, definitely.
And hey, if you're finding this deep dive into the Moringa effect useful, please do consider subscribing to the show. Maybe give us a like. It helps others find it and means you won't miss our future explorations.
It really has been quite illuminating, hasn't it? Seeing how that traditional wisdom lines up in many ways with what some of the early science is suggesting, especially in those animal models.
Yeah.
The potential for it to influence mood and well-being through different pathways, neurotransmitters, antioxidants, anti-inflammatories, certainly intriguing.
But maintaining that balanced view is key.
Exactly. Balanced, informed perspective. And acknowledging that, yes, more human research is really crucial to fully get a handle on its effects.
Couldn't agree more. It's definitely a promising area, though. And it just highlights, again, that powerful, maybe sometimes overlooked connection between the natural world and our own mental and emotional health. So as we sort of wrap up this deep dive into the Moringa effect, based on these excellent sources you provided, it feels pretty clear that Moringa oleifera holds, well, significant potential, not just for physical health, but for supporting our mental well-being, fostering that sense of positivity.
Connecting us to nature's benefits, yeah. What's particularly striking, I think, is that suggestion from the science that it might have this antidepressant-like action, possibly using similar brain pathways to conventional drugs. You couple that with the antioxidant and anti-inflammatory stuff, and it paints a picture of a multifaceted natural approach.
And those articles on anxiety really build on that, don't they? Pointing to how Moringa might influence those key mood chemicals, while also just providing that rich nutrient base for overall brain health.
Indeed. And even the potential sleep benefits, it just underscores how interconnected everything is. Good sleep is so fundamental for emotional resilience, for everything, really.
Absolutely. But we need to reiterate this information we've gone through today. It's based on preliminary research, traditional use.
It's a starting point.
Exactly. A great starting point for understanding, for further looking into it. But it is absolutely not a substitute for professional medical advice or treatment. Can't stress that enough.
No, that's a critical distinction. And, that constant emphasis in the sources on Moringa's sheer nutritional density, it just reinforces that powerful link between what we eat, what we consume, and how we feel mentally and physically. That's such a core part of embracing positivity through nature's offerings, isn't it?
It really is. We definitely hope this encourages you, our listeners, to keep exploring this fascinating plant. And again, please talk with your healthcare provider if you're thinking about making Moringa part of your own wellness routine.
It does raise that broader question, I think, for all of us.
Yeah.
How can we thoughtfully blend traditional knowledge with modern science to find these natural ways to support our mental and emotional health?
That's a great thought to ponder. We would absolutely love to hear your reflections on the Moringa effect. What stood out most to you from our chat today? Any more questions bubbling up about Moringa? Let us know. Share your thoughts down in the comments.
Please do.
And if you enjoyed this exploration, found it valuable, please do subscribe and maybe give us a like. It really helps support future deep dives like this one.
Your engagement, your feedback, it's incredibly valuable. It helps us keep bringing you this kind of detailed look at interesting topics.
Stay wise, stay well, and keep thriving with nature's wisdom. See you next time.